what is the best time to eat? You see, this body that you're in is intimately hooked up with nature, and all organisms are intimately hooked with nature. And some organisms are nocturnal, so here, like when it gets around evening, you start to hear all kinds of insects, all kinds of insects, and then you hear them all night long. That's when they're awake. That's when they're awake. And then as soon as the sun comes up, you don't hear them no more. That's it. It's time for them to sleep. That's their cycle. That's the way they're hooked with nature. And then you've got the human being, which responds to nature. So it responds to the sun. When the sun rises, the human being rises. Even hormones, like right around 6, 7, if you're a man, you'll get a boner, because that's testosterone. That's energy, right? Testosterone gives energy. So it's time for you to rise. And even if you stay up all night, you'll see that right around 6, 7, you'll get a boner, because that's still your body is hooked. Even when I was living so unhealthy back in university days, and I was staying up and stuff like that, right around 6, 7, I get a boner, So even then, of course, you can get away with that when you're young, but when you're older, you're probably not gonna get a boner if you're not observing a healthy lifestyle. So I'm just putting it out there. So the hormones are, even if you're living in like a city and you're isolated and stuff like that, still you're hooked to nature, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not. Most people are not conscious of it. So the human body is designed to wake up with the sun and rest and sleep after sunset. So the body loves at night, it loves to regenerate itself and detoxify itself of any toxicity that it has picked up throughout the day. And so that it can be prepared to have energy to go and do whatever its thing is during the day. So then it's well advised to align yourself as a human being as best as you can to the Tao, to the way of things, to the Tao of the human being, to the Tao of the human vehicle, the temple in which your consciousness experiences itself through. I really like the word align. It's highly used, frequently used in the spiritual scene, and for good reason, for good measure. It's a really beautiful word. Align, alignment, flow, right? If I am flowing with the Tao, I am experiencing joy, happiness, well-being, state of flow. If I am in resistance to the way, to the Tao, I am experiencing dis-ease. I'm not in a state of ease. So to be in a state of ease, one is highly advised to be as aligned with the way, with the Tao of the human being. So then if we're designed to get up in the morning and then rest, so sunrise, sunset, basically, that's the one we're concerned with. So then what is the best time to eat? Okay, so the digestive process, first of all, there's like a fire in your belly. That's the solar plexus, that's the ajni. There's fire in there. It's fire, and it can digest food, it can do all kinds of things. It's Tibetans call this inner fire, and it's what they use. They actually, part of the Tumo practices to be able to warm themselves up in sub-zero temperatures is they actually focus on this fire in the belly. It's there. Taoists do the same thing. They focus on this fire here. There's a fire in your belly, and that fire can be used to digest food. It can be used to warm you up. It can be used to even transcend and take the energy, right, and move it up to the higher chakras, to your third eye and the crown chakra, which is what the Hindus do in a lot of their meditations. They take this fire in the solar plexus and they transmute it upwards. So there is a fire in here, and so it can be used to digest food, but it doesn't have to be. If you're a breatharian, you're using that fire for many, many different things. So you want to eat when that fire is at its highest, when it's at its peak. And just use your own discernment. When is that usually? And if you observe your own cycles, and if you're observing, first of all, a healthy lifestyle aligned with the way, then you will pretty quickly observe and notice that it is around noon usually. That's when your body it warms up. Like right now I got a sweater on because it's still early in the morning. It's cold. Okay, it's cold here. It gets cold here in Pi. But probably after this video I'll start to take off, and I'm pretty sure I'll be shirtless because the sun is there. It's at its highest peak, and it's warm. I don't need to put on anything anymore because it's warm. My hands are warm, my feet are warm. I'm out in the sun. It's midday, mid-noon. And between that 12 to 3, 12 to 4, like I feel my most warmest and my highest energy. Like I want to move. I even get the urge I want to move. Like let's move. I want to move. I want to walk. I want to do this. Energy, because it makes sense. The sun is at its peak. There's the highest amount of energy. It's the highest amount of energy between about 12 and 3. Before the sun starts to, break, it begins to go down. And even it's I love living in a place like this. I love it because I just get to see how my body is responding to all these different changes in nature. It's just amazing. Like if I sit here between the hours of 6 to 8 in the evening, man, I get to just see how the body changes. Like around 8, I begin to yawn, and it's just the energy changes. And it's like my body now wants to rest, rejuvenate, and detoxify itself. It wants to just close my eyes begin to close, and then by like 9:30, 10, I'm in bed. I love it. Just love seeing the way it changes. So, but if I eat around that time, what happens is that stimulates the ajni, the fire, because now we've got food, we've got to do something with it, which delays my time to sleep and just messes up with the whole process and the whole cycle. But if I do eat in around noon, between 12 and 3, let's say, then I experience a lot less discomfort because there is fire. I'm hooked with the elements here. There's the greatest amount of energy in my body. My body wants to move. It wants to do stuff. It's active. It makes sense. You got the sun over there, the highest amount of energy. So then there's enough energy in the system, enough energy around me to also digest my food. And unless I screw up and I eat like a giant meal, which is we're not supposed to do that, then I also mess up with the cycles because now, there's far too much food in the body. So then I may feel tired, I may feel fatigued. But if I eat just enough, and I'm not full, like stuffed, it's fine. I could go for a walk and go move and be active, and the digestive process can go on also smoothly here because there's enough energy here. It's only when I eat like either foods that are not supposed to be in my body, that require a lot of life force to begin with, to be processed, and if I eat massive amounts of them, that I feel like like just drained out of energy. Because sure, I'm eating at the optimal time, but I'm not eating the optimal food an optimal quantity, which is just enough. So yeah, of course, you have to take into account all these other factors. Optimal food, are you eating like fruits basically is the optimal food? And are you eating it in optimal quantities? Which is, again, your stomach is the size of a fist. You don't need all that much. You don't need all that much. So yeah, if you're doing that, you're going to find that you're going to have pretty optimal digestion. If you're eating at the around noontime, between 12 and 3, let's say, and if you're, again, eating optimal foods, optimal quantity, you'll find that your digestion overall is pretty optimal. It's pretty optimal. And then you wake up the next day and that's it. Automatically, you go to the shitter. Like, automatically. It's like if you eat at 12, let's say, you're up next day by 8. Trust me, first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the bathroom. And that's it. The food's eliminated and you feel good. You feel good. Is enough. You've given the food enough time to be digested, assimilated, and eliminated, and you're ready to go. So yeah, it's beautiful. If you observe nature, it will, nature herself will give you all the answers as to what to do, anything pretty much. When you should eat, how much you should eat, what you should eat. And it's our disconnection from nature that's actually the original sin. Sin means to miss the mark. So we missed the mark when we began to build our own separate human worlds and we separated ourselves from the natural world. So all these answers that are so obvious, or these clues that are so obvious when you're in nature, plugged to nature, are lost. And then we have to go to Uncle Google and look up all kinds of things. And then, yeah, man, I don't even trust Google anymore. I don't even trust Google anymore because, like it's all mainstream shit. And I much rather go to YouTube and find some, because if you want to find like some esoteric uh, knowledge, you're not gonna find it on Google. You're gonna have to go on YouTube, right? And find channels like my channel, for example, and alternative ways. Let's say alternative knowledge, which is hidden knowledge, right? You're gonna find it on YouTube. You're not gonna find it on Google. So I gave up on Google. I don't even Google stuff anymore. If I have a question, I go to YouTube. But even better, just go to nature. Just live in harmony with nature, and all your answers will be provided to you. See that the thing with eating during noon, like in the noon hours, I actually did not get this from anybody. I did not get this, and then later I found out that the Hindus say the same thing. They call it the Ajin, the fire, and they recommend that you eat in between those hours. They recommend you eat when the sun is at it as it is at its highest. And I found out about that teaching in Hindu scriptures and in yoga specifically, after I came up with the conclusion on my own, because I began to observe nature. I began to observe my own cycles, my own digestion, how things move in the system, and how my energy moves throughout the day. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. And then later on, I found out that, oh, okay, yogis say the same thing. They recommend the same thing. And I believe the Taoists as well. I think they say also that's a pretty optimal time to eat. Okay, anytime before sunset, obviously, before sunset. You want to eat before sunset. If you want to delay it a little bit, okay, maybe around 4 p.m., 5 p.m., but definitely before sunset. I actually like to delay a little bit. I don't like to eat like when the sun is at its highest. I like to eat a little bit like 3, 4. I like to eat late noon for me personally. Definitely before sunset. Definitely before sunset, because after then the body doesn't really want to deal with all this food and digest it. It wants to detoxify and eliminate. It wants to have already digested and eliminated the food. By the time it's like 9 p.m., your body wants to have already digested, or let's say assimilated, and then it's the elimination phase at that point. It wants to eliminate the food, and it wants to detoxify the body from all the toxins that it picked up during the day. So anytime before sunset is a good time to eat. Let's just say, as a rule of thumb, anytime before sunset. 6 p.m. like should be the cutoff for all kinds of consumption. Food and water, that should be the absolute cutoff. 6 p.m. Okay, so thank you to the Patreons. I love you guys, and I can't believe we're up to 31 Patreons now. That's amazing. That's incredible. Thank you guys, and if you want to support this community, if you want to donate, there are links in the description as well. And yeah, what else? Said Mobayed on Instagram, and until next time, may the force be with you.